Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 178. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 30th of January. People say January doesn't end, but look at that. We're coming to an end. We're closing to the end of January here. We're closing into the end of January here. 30th, one more day in January. Thank you for being here. I do enjoy doing this. I do enjoy you all being here. This evening we're starting talking about the cold evenings. You know, it's a record. It's been a record temperature. At least yesterday was that record temperature. Sunday was a record temperature of coolness. But we digressed quickly from talking about that to talking about the laws, because there was an incident today where a traffic warden bounced up on a police officer, and they were testing to see which piece is stronger than which piece. You know, it's like in chess, the rook is fighting the castle or something of the sort. Which piece is stronger than which? And then somebody in the chat was saying that if we obey the laws, if we follow the laws, then the traffic wardens won't be there to make money for the government. You know, because some people believe that the traffic warden's main purpose is to make money for the government. But someone was saying, you know, if we follow the laws of the land, then the traffic wardens won't be making money for the government. And okay, I understand that. Obey the law. But I really don't like that. As I was pointing out before we started here over on YouTube, many cruel things are part of the laws of the land. Just something being the law of the land cannot be reason enough for logical people to think about this and be like, yes, this makes sense. And something that really annoys me is the whole traffic law system in our country. So we've seen our licensing officers really come out to make their money recently at the start of this year. The licensing officers are out on the roads, making sure everyone's car is up to date. Now, how can this be a fair predicament? How can this make sense? How are you looking at this and saying, I like how this country is running, when the licensing officers are making sure that your car is roadworthy when the roads aren't car worthy? That doesn't make sense. That does not make sense. Who is that to help? It might very well be that my car is in the state it is in because the road is in the state it is in. So how does that work out? That seems to me like cruelty. It seems to me like it's an unfair position you're putting the citizens of the country in. It's an unfair position. And then we were talking about the traffic wardens who are out there, you know, to make sure that everyone follows the traffic codes. But then if you look at where traffic wardens are, they aren't where you would want them to be, to, you know, make sure that people aren't breaking those. No, they're oftentimes in the city centers, clogging up the city centers, making sure that more traffic is there. And that's why when I saw a traffic warden and a police officer bounce up on each other, I laughed, to be very honest with you. I laughed. Now, I'm not laughing at violence, because in the actual situation, it was a male police officer with a female traffic warden, and I found that he was manhandling her a good bit. The excessive manhandling was a bit much. But then you notice that that's how police officers treat many of the average citizens of the country. Many citizens of the country speak about how our police interact with them, that tendency to manhandle people, that tendency to speak to people with that level of arrogance. Well, we saw that the police gave it to the licensing officer there. So that's why I laughed. I found that the bother that the licensing officers give to the regular citizens, now they're giving to the police. The bother that the police officers give to the regular citizens, now they're giving to the licensing officers. It's a kind of, what's that German word, Schadenfreude or something like that, where, you know, you could get some pleasure in watching some unfortunate things happen to people who do the cruelty. HB Nikki says they target the poor just like police. Don't be around doing roadblock whole month, but month end. I saw an article saying he was suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. Yes, I saw that article. He was suspended. I'm not sure if he was suspended without pay. I highly doubt that he was suspended without pay. So it may very well be that he's being paid while he's sitting at home during this time. And that is something that I noticed also, HB Nikki. I made a video about this a while back, where the reality, when you look at the roadblocks of the licensing officers, look at what licensing officers do. 90% of the people licensing officers are stopping on a roadblock are people who are struggling. If you stop a guy with a third-hand vehicle with smooth tires, you think he wants his tires to be smooth? Do you think he wants his tires to be smooth? And if you stop him and give him a ticket for $1,500, would that increase the likelihood of him changing his tires or decrease the likelihood of it happening? Like, I understand that making sure vehicles are roadworthy is an important part of road safety. But how many accidents per year do you think are caused because a vehicle was not roadworthy? Like, I would think, I can't remember our road fatalities number for last year, but if there were 200 road fatalities, I might presume probably less than 5% might be caused because of a problem with the vehicle that the licensing officers could have noticed. Almost all of the road fatalities and road accidents are really caused because of bad driving. Citations should be introduced with time to rectify. I agree. If the idea is that you want people to be safe on the road, then you'd go about it one way. But on the other hand, if the idea is to make money for the government, then you'd go about it the way that we are going about it right now. And then you think about road safety. This same licensing association, the same licensing division, where the officers are coming out from, you think they are not aware that bribes pass on a daily basis in order for people to get licenses? You think the licensing officers stopping you at a roadblock don't know that they have a compatriot taking a bribe at that very moment to allow somebody unqualified to get onto the nation's roads? Like, I feel if at any moment I end up in a roadblock, I'm telling you all, I'm going live. I think I'll be going live and I'll be conducting an interview with the licensing officers. They give me that ticket. If I enter a roadblock and a licensing officer stops me, I assure you I'm making a video. And I would like to ask them, do you know of one of your friends, one of your compatriots that is taking a bribe right at this moment in the licensing office? At this very moment, allowing some novice who doesn't know when to mash brakes and doesn't know how to merge onto the highway, allowing them to come out tomorrow onto the highway with a license that they did not qualify for. But these same licensing officers, they're so much law-abiding citizens. You know, when they come out there, they're there to make sure that the country follows the law because they care about the law that much. Yeah, right. If you care about the law that much, which one of you have ever informed on one of your bribe-taking friends? If you care about the law so much, you know, you want to make sure everyone in the country follows the laws. As someone said in the chat earlier, if we all follow the laws, then, you know, it would be fine. Okay. If you know that, if you believe in the laws of the land so much, when last have you reported one of your fellow licensing officers? Huh? What was that? Never? Well, then you don't care about the laws. You care about making money for the government. And how does it feel to be a stooge of the government? All you do is make money for the wealthiest people of the country. You stand there forcing the poorest people in the country to fork their money over to the wealthiest people in the country, because when you pay that ticket and all the money goes into the consolidated fund, etc., and rent comes out to pay for those $1 million buildings that they rent from their friends, it's coming out of your little pittance of traffic money. And then someone will tell me this makes sense. This is how a country is supposed to run. This is being done for the good of everyone. This is being done for the good of the population, you know, the citizens. Yeah, right. Sure. They are more corrupt than the law-abiding citizens they're giving tickets to. I agree. And that's why I don't believe that these roadblocks make sense like that. You aren't going to get me to buy into that and look at it like, you know, it's a positive thing for the country. I'm sorry, it's not. And you look at as I was saying earlier, you look at the timing of it, it doesn't even seem like they are interested in catching the criminals. Good night, like it. Okay. What a name, like it wet. Good night. Yeah. It doesn't even seem like the timing of it is being done to catch the criminals. Tony the Ambassador, there needs to be reform all around. I agree. But I think you may be an officer. Can you explain to me what is the purpose of a peak time roadblock? Other than frustrating the public, killing the business community, decreasing the efficiency of the labor market in Trinidad and Tobago. What is the purpose of a peak hour roadblock? Who would do something like that? Oh, I thought so for some reason. My bad. I want to ask an officer that, like, when they're plotting this out, when they're planning this out, and they decide, okay, we're going to have a roadblock at 7 to 9 a.m. Like, why would they do that? Who do they expect to catch? Good night, Kim Oliver, the late bird. Who do they expect to catch at a moment like that? Which criminal is out there at that kind of time? It seems like, you know, it's really just for the frustration of the people. The reason is to mess with people mental. It could seem so. It could seem so. And do we really want a frustrated public? Maximum vehicles on the road to collect maximum fines. Now that sounds like a good reasoning. It seems like it's about collecting maximum fines. Seems like it's about collecting maximum fines. All right. Let's see if we could actually go into some stories of the day. The coldest in 10 years. We know that already. You all saw that the men accused of the Vindra Naipaul murder are going to all be millionaires. 9 freed of Vindra's murder set to become multi-millionaires. 9 of the men who were freed of the kidnapping and murder of businesswoman Vindra Naipaul Coolman were on Monday each awarded in excess of $2 million by the courts for malicious prosecution. The order for payment was made by Master Martha Alexander after the state failed to file a defense in the claim. Successful in their claim were all the names named there, and they were awarded $2 million for malicious prosecution, exemplary damages of $100,000 each, and prescribed cost in the sum of $200,917.56. All 9 were found not guilty in 2016 before then High Court Justice Malcolm Holdip. Now listen to this. The former accused were represented in the civil claim by former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan Senior Counsel. You know, I will never not find it strange that a former Attorney General who was responsible for prosecuting these very same men at some point in time, or who would have been overseeing the prosecution of these very same men at one point in time, is now leading the case, or at least he led the case that won. He has the reputation of one of the best fighters of the state, and I just find that I will never not find that strange. He wins cases. Yes, Serenity, he most certainly does. He most certainly does. But don't you find it strange that the guy who was responsible for the state's legal cases, for the state's legal system, to give the state legal advice, is now suing the state? Don't you think he may have been in a position to, one, know all of the loopholes from the state because he was on that side, or on the other hand, possibly, maybe, in an alternative reality even, create some of those loopholes? I mean, it's like the same guy is bowling the ball, and then somehow he pauses the game and switches character to bat the ball too. Yeah, I don't know if any of you ever played FIFA with like a little child who doesn't want to play against competition, and they have the 2 controls, and they play with one control and have the next control there. So when they're running, they could press this side and move the player out the way. You know, it feels kind of like that. It feels like you're playing both sides a bit. You were on that side, now you switch side and you're winning again. Something seems a little. It's a money making thing. It's all about how much they can get before leaving office. Yeah. It doesn't. There's no way that seems 100%. There's no way. Like, to me, I understand it's your legal profession, but to me, such things like, at least give us a 10-year break. Like, if you were Attorney General, then there should be at least a law that within the next 10 years you can't fight a case against the state. Like, something like that. I feel like there may be conflict of interests like that in private companies. I wouldn't doubt a private company might have a conflict of interest like that. Like, I wouldn't doubt if you were legal counsel for Ansa McCall. If you leave as legal counsel for Ansa McCall, I wouldn't doubt they may have an NDA or some kind of legal agreement where you cannot go and fight a case against Ansa McCall probably for the next 5 years or something. Like something. Oh my goodness. Something. And of course there would be those who would defend him. It's a conflict of interest. Tony the Ambassador says, correct, he shouldn't be able to fight cases against his former employer, basically. Yes, it's your former employer, where you would have been in a position to get sensitive information. The Attorney General is the second highest ranking member of the government. He would be the person that would be informed on certain things that may be of a sensitive nature, where the information may not be available to the public. He would have classified information. Like, come on, man. Serenity says, honestly, I think it's a personal thing with him because he actually fights against AG and still win. I don't understand what you mean it's a personal thing with him, because his mainstay of cases is fighting the state now. And if you speak to people in the public, it's kind of widely known, a widely known reputation. His fame now is fighting the state, and he is good at it. I'm not saying he isn't, but you must understand there's a conflict of interest. Well, there's an apparent conflict of interest there. Like, how could you not find it? So, like, how much better can we make that? If you were the coach for one team and you go coach their rivals next year and keep beating that one team, people are going to suspect that you took some inside information from one and carried it over to the other. And then when it's, in this case, the state versus sometimes alleged criminals, you wonder, like, okay, I could understand it from a job portfolio, but if you're talking about the kind of character you want for someone in the office of the Attorney General, the kind of character you want for someone in the office of the Attorney General should be someone of upstanding character. Their decision on what to do shouldn't just be a matter of whether it's legal or not. You know, I made this point before. We shouldn't be judging the government or people in the government on a basis of what is legal or not. It should be judged based on what is moral or not, because they are the people who make the laws. So they could make it legal or make it illegal. So what we're looking at is what should be legal or what should not be legal when we look at what they do. Tanika says our judicial system is a mess. It's corrupted lawyers. Cover for lawyers. That's true. His law firm is massive, but he personally takes these cases. Interpreting the law is his skill. I don't deny that. There's no part of this where I deny his skill or deny that he may indeed be a very competent lawyer. That's not what I'm saying. But you know, like, I find it strange where we need to go on to all these other things. It's a very simple, straightforward thing. It's like in the United States, they have a problem where a lot of their legislators, exactly after they finish their time in Congress, which is like their member of parliament, as it were, where they vote on laws that could stop or push forward certain businesses, end their time in Congress and then go for the same business that they were making laws against. That does not seem right. There seems to be something wrong with that. And you could say that it's legal, and it might be legal, but there are the people who make the laws. So obviously it's legal. They made the laws. We're not discussing the legality of it. We're discussing whether it's appropriate or not. We're discussing the propriety of it. Is it a good thing? It cannot be just that we're discussing the legality. When we're talking about the literal people who write the laws, he was the Attorney General. He was someone responsible for crafting laws in the country. We cannot be debating whether it is legal or illegal. When we're talking about the person in charge of crafting the laws, we have to be talking about whether it should be or should not be. No ethics in that previous administration. Ethics is on the low in politics. Ethics is on the low. Then the Minister of Finance and the PM should not invest the way they are currently. Well, what are the investments you're talking about? Because if you're talking about not the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Local Government, I had many lives on this. Empress Roni could speak about this. Empress Roni could speak about this. I spoke about when the Minister of Local Government, who was then the Attorney General, he was there, one, recusing himself constantly, and two, the government was renting buildings to the sum of 20-something million from him. And I spoke about that. Yes, he may be in the realm of a private citizen, he may legitimately own these buildings, but you must understand, when you're sitting in a government and the government is renting buildings from you, that it seems like a conflict. What bothers me is that some people would clearly see, yes, Al-Rawi, that looks bad. How dare you make $20 million from the same government that you are a part of? Then at the same time, those people would be squinting like, really, I'm struggling to see the conflict there. Like, no, you're not struggling to see the conflict. You're partisan in nature. You're partisan in nature. You're not seeing the conflict on one side because you have your bias, and your bias blinders are blocking you from seeing it. Yes, when Mr. Al-Rawi was being accused and it was shown that he was indeed getting a significant amount of money from government rentals, I said the same thing. It's a conflict. It does not look good. And it should not be legal. Then at the same time now, we can't look at this and say, you know what? Nah, that's not the same thing. You see, on the other hand, if you're talking about the Prime Minister, he has investments in property, yes, but the investments he has is separate from the state. The allegations that were coming from Tobago, and be very careful what you say, because people have already lost money in court when they said certain things wrong about that, but the investment in the property in Tobago was not a state business, it was private. He can make private investments. It's not the same thing. I'm not talking about the former Attorney General in his scope as a private citizen. No. I mean, by all means, you fight that as a private, fighting between private citizens, between private companies, fine, you do all of that. But when it comes to doing cases against the state, and especially in this case, these people were being prosecuted in the courts by the state when he was in charge of state prosecution. Like, I'm flabbergasted. I am flabbergasted how anyone could look at that and not find it at least a wee bit conflicting. But yes, Tony the Ambassador, every time cases put off, lawyers get paid, and we have a position in this country, and it's not just in this country, for being fair, it's kind of a global position, I've noticed, where the vast majority of I don't know where you heard that, Honoria. You might have to inquire where you heard that from. The vast majority of people involved in politics, the vast majority of our politicians are lawyers. So it's lawyers making laws for lawyers to fight. There are conflicts there, obviously. And then we're surprised that lawyers make so much money in the country. Then we're surprised that lawyers could nearly get away with crime, doing criminal activity anyway. But we shouldn't really be surprised. I mean, they're making the laws. All our politicians are lawyers. Remember there were copy and paste defenses? Yes, I remember that very well. I remember that very, very well. All right. We need to limit the number of lawyers in parliament. You know, I mean, I don't think that may be legal. I don't think there may be a legal way to limit the amount of lawyers in parliament. But I kind of agree with you in it. I kind of agree with you. We might need to limit them. Like you could be a lawyer and an attorney general. Of course, we need lawyers to be attorney generals. But other than that, nah. Your lawyers, leave politics. Leave! We have too many. Positive Radiation says, I want a stupid prime minister. I understand what you're saying. That's the view, that's the kind of populist view. That's why populism becomes popular. Populism is the idea that generally you could think about it like this. You're of the view that the general population would be better able to run things than the appointed technocrats. And the idea is, if you pick somebody randomly out of the phone book, they most likely would run the country better than a PhD student out of university. And I could kind of agree with that. I could see the agreement with that, because I understand why you say I want a stupid prime minister, because it seems like the smart ones use all their smartness against us. Like allow a stupid one to go in there and they won't do anything, they won't damage anyone, and it might be better. Ria says, I think we need to have boundaries on what you're able to do if you've assumed a high public office. I agree. What that is called is limiting state power. The problem in Trinidad is that Trinidadians love state power. Trinidadians love state power. We love that the state has power because we love the state to give us things. We love that the state can go in and put their thumb on the scale, and the state could go, sleeping in the hospital, I need a house. Like, we think the state, the government, politicians are responsible for taking care of our health and responsible for taking care of our housing. Now, if you give politicians the power to take care of your health and your housing, you're giving them a lot of power. So if you want to have boundaries on what politicians can do, then you have to have boundaries on what politicians can do, and they would have boundaries on even how much they can help you. Understand, it goes both ways. So when you want the politicians to help you more, you must understand you're giving them authority over that realm. That some people, parents, yes, many people have a daddy government complex. I think, my opinion is, that's a colonial thinking. I think that came from the colonial mindset, that we were handed down a colonial mindset of governance where we believe that we're subjects of the government. You know, we aren't members that get a say in what our government does. We are subjects who have to follow the edicts of the government. So it was the same thing in colonial times, where the colonial powers, England, the Queen, whoever, the king back then, they sent down instructions, and we don't really have a say in it. It's what the government says goes, and that's what happens. And then even through independence, we still had that mentality. Well, Dr. Eric Williams, he would be there, and that government will take care of things, and the government is going to invest in the oil and gas sector, and the profits from that, they're going to use that to take care of all of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, here's the thing. When you give the government the power to take care of you, you give the government more power. That's just the reality. That's just the reality. Dave says work hard and you don't need government. Yeah, that's true. But you have to create a structure where the government cannot do those things. Nathan, I disagree. Ria says in caps. I'm not sure what you disagree with there. I don't know what could be disagreed with there. Do you think that the government does not get more power when it seeks to help you? If the government has the power to give you housing, then the government must have the power to commandeer land. You understand that? If the government has the power to give you housing, they have the power to commandeer land. In order for them to do things, you have to give them the power to do it. That's the nature of the beast. Let me up just for this exchange, okay? Let me lay you up there for a bit, and we'll hear what you have to say on this.
Hi, folks. Good night.
Good night, good night, good night. What's up?
So this is where I disagree. This is where and why I disagree. Because to say that we have this parent mindset that we only want from the government, I think it's actually back to front. I think the government agrees to give knowing that they also get. It is a matter of they knowing that they cannot take away healthcare, because then when it is they have to look at taking away healthcare, they take away all their free visits to private doctors and to private hospitals that is paid for completely by the state or from taxpayers' money. It is the same thing with housing. If it is the remove housing or the opportunity to get affordable housing, they should also remove the housing allowance that they get.
Here's the thing. I don't think.
I'm not sure.
I don't think that the reason they aren't removing it.
Is it my internet? I think it's.
Now, I don't know if it's your internet, because I'm seeing myself sticking on another screen there too. But I don't know. I don't know that they don't want to remove those.
It was my internet. Yes, it was.
Okay. I don't know if they don't want to remove those things because of the benefits for themselves, as in private healthcare visits. Because the vast majority of government officials can pay for private healthcare visits. I know they don't want to, but they can. I don't think they're looking at this just in terms of the private healthcare. You see, the general thing is, one...
No, not just private healthcare. Everything that they do, from housing to healthcare to motor vehicle tax exemption.
Right. I don't think they're looking...
every single perk that they receive.
I don't think they're looking at it as in the perk side, because it's totally possible to see that the government exits the healthcare industry and still allows themselves to get healthcare perks. They make the laws. They could put that into the law books. But I think the purpose is control. The purpose, and here's the reality. I don't think that every government official who is sitting there in the government is having the mentality, we're going to keep giving the people of Trinidad things so that we can keep controlling them. No, I don't think it may necessarily all be purposeful, but it's a self-propagating system where all of these people in the government are needed to do all of these things. So I am not going to change the rules and change the laws that's going to make the job that gives me my money and gives me an occupation and gives me an important standing in society. I'm not going to change that to give me no job. Like, if you ask the Minister of Health, does he think that the government should get out of healthcare? Of course he's going to say no. This is not even to say that I am propagating such a... If you ask the Minister of Education, if she thinks the government should leave education, I don't think she's going to say yes. They are paid to do these jobs. So if they are paid to do a job, they are obviously going to see the need to continue having the job. And that's where I think a lot of the conflict is. So in Trinidad and Tobago, the citizens have gotten accustomed to the government doing so much of these general everyday jobs for them. And the government has gotten a lot of power from doing so much of these general everyday jobs for the citizens. Neither of the parties wants that to change. Many of the citizens see that, okay, I get a lot of this easily. I don't have to go out there and struggle. So yeah, let the government do it for me. And the government sees that I get a lot of power easily. No one questions what I do. All I have to do is make sure that some of it is done for them. What I think a lot of people don't notice is that if the country of Trinidad and Tobago gets $100 in totality, if we give the government all of the $100, let's say we have 100 citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, we get $100 in totality in income. If we give the government that $100 to take care of the citizens, the government is going to squander 50, and then everyone is going to get 50 cents. While it's entirely possible that each citizen attempts to make their own $1 on their own, and everyone attempts to make the one on their own where everyone gets the $1. Now, the reality is very likely what's going to happen in that case. If everyone goes out there to try to make their own dollar, some people are better at it, some people are not as good at it, some people are lazy. So some people may go out there and make 5 on their own, and some people may go out there, they won't go out there and they will make 0. In fact, they will borrow and they will owe some. So the people that will borrow and will owe some, if your general thing in the open market is, I don't want to go out there and make my own, I will borrow and I will owe some, would I want the government to be in control of everything where they will take from everyone and make sure I get at least 50 cents? Of course, that's what I will want. So what this does is it incentivizes a system where the people who want the government are the people who actually don't put that much into the system. The people who benefit the most are the people who do the least. And they have the most...
And that's why I see it back to front. I see it in that because the government wants to take, when they take that $50, they have to give so that it doesn't look like they're very selfish. When I mean in truth and in fact they are. But they think that by giving whatever it is they do give, it is like, okay, we take, but we also give. So it's not a matter of them just taking and doing things for themselves. They think to themselves that at the end of the day, at least we do for you all.
Yeah,
So
I understand that. But I think what I'm saying, that may be on a personal level, some of their mentalities. But I'm talking on a systemic level. It's not that they like the personal perks. It's not that the system is created that way for the personal perks. It's created that way because when the system is made where we give a lot, it takes a lot of power also. Someone asks, if the job was free, if people would do it. Yes. You would think that people won't, but that's not true. Here's the reality. There are businessmen out there. People ask if the government isn't there. One of the favorite things people ask when there are people who propose that we kill the whole presence of government, we destroy all government. And people ask, well, who is going to do the roads? How are the roads going to come about? Who's going to pave the roads? The reality is, business people will pave the roads. If the position of Prime Minister was a voluntary one where there was no pay, a businessman who is very serious about Trinidad and Tobago becoming more lucrative would go in there and do the job for free just so that Trinidad could be governed better. You see, better governance has money in it. That's what some people don't understand. If Trinidad, I did a conversation, hopefully I'll get to drop it tomorrow, Tuesday, yeah. Hopefully I'll get to drop it tomorrow, where I was speaking to the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. Beautiful conversation, about an hour and a half we took. There's a lot of information on this very topic that we're talking about, and you'll get that. He was highlighting to me the increasing costs because of security. How much more expensive security is for most businesses. Security alone for most businesses balloons costs. Then the traffic situation in Trinidad and Tobago. While 15 years ago, you could have moved 4 containers from Arima to Port of Spain. Now, if you could get 1 container in a day, you might be lucky because of the traffic situation. So, for a businessman, if I have a business where I am already making millions of dollars in my business, and I know that I can make tens of millions of dollars if I could reduce the crime situation and I could reduce the traffic situation, wouldn't it be in my profitable, better interest to go out there and reduce the traffic and crime situation, even if I have to do it for free? Here's how I know that is true. There's a grocery in my area, Price Club in Chaguanas. If you live in the Chaguanas Central region, you might know Price Club. They're in Center Point Mall right there. I don't
know, by the way.
Huh? Yeah, okay, cool.
Coming down, no. I think I made my point. I'm going off on your point. Okay, right, okay.
Thanks. Bye. Price Club is out there in Chaguanas. There's a back road. If you know the area, there's a back road from Chaguanas going through to Waterloo area. The Price Club owner lives somewhere on that side. I don't know exactly where. He takes that road every day. Because of that, when there's patching to be done on that road, oftentimes you see Price Club workers patching the roads. There are some bridges on that road that have fallen down. Price Club workers build back the bridges. There are some barriers on the bridges that some people crash into and knock down. Price Club workers build back the barriers. He isn't being paid by the government to do this. He is doing it because it's to the benefit of himself and his business. That's the reality. Governance isn't just there for the poorest people in society to get social welfare. That's not the purpose of governance. And we think it's that purpose. Governance is there to facilitate everyone in society being able to go about their everyday duties. And there are people out there who will be willing to do that even for free. The idea that somehow we have to pay people $50,000 otherwise they would not be interested in doing that, I think that's a lie coming from the people who want to be paid $50,000 to do it. Nathan will do it, I guess. Yes, I might. You know, I might have been more interested in being involved in politics if it was a free time-limited occupation versus something where you're going as a paid job, I might have been more interested. Imagine that. Abdan Joseph wants to jump in. Not right now. We need a condition, Serenity says we need a condition where the government not performing according to whatever they promise. Election. 5 years is too long. The problem though, HB Nikki Groupie and Serenity, the problem though is the system that we are trapped in. Even if you are disappointed with the government, all right, we disappointed with what this government doing, we could call snap elections. You only get to vote for the options you see on the ballot book, and the options you see on the ballot book are the same two options you saw in the last election. So, okay, you're disappointed with option A. This election, you vote for option B. Option B isn't doing what you want. So, in 1 year, you change out option B and put option A. Option A isn't doing what you want. So, in 1 year, you vote them out and put back option B. So, we're just going to be switching in between the two options over and over in a shorter period of time. Would that help anything? Yeah. How you going? I'm good, man.
See, understand? I kind of disagree with you when you say that the companies and them will pave the roads and things for free if it was something free. So, why? Let us be real. Why? Smaller and larger companies don't pave the road for free to make things better. If, understand what I'm saying? If these companies take measures into their own hands. Like we just say, right? Like we just say, you are your own company, your own asphalt company, your own security company, whatever it is, but your own asphalt company, because we didn't want the roads here. You take the opportunity and say, you know what? I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to pave from Princeton to Sando free of charge. Right? No, you open up your eye big. When you do something like that, the people in the community and citizens around Trinidad and Tobago will watch you a certain way, a certain manner. And like we just say, 2025, they say, you know what, I'm going to run for Prime Minister. I'm going to run for President. People will vote for you.
Here's the thing. I understand what you're saying, but there are several realities in that would make that much more difficult. One, I think you may underestimate the price of paving. If someone paves from Princeton to San Fernando privately, that may well cost them into $100 million. You understand? That's not small money. Very, very few, if anyone, has $100 million lying around that they could, just give away to Trinidad and Tobago. That's one. Two, the part where you say that if they do pave it, people would be very appreciative, and then come next election, they would be voted for. Well, that is not true about Trinidad and Tobago politics, because Trinidad and Tobago politics works on the tribal partisan level. Uncle Jack Warner, so I saw somebody mention his name, Mr. Austin Jack Warner. Paved roads, cut savannas endlessly around Felicity. and the Shogunas West community. People should have loved him. They did love him. They did love him in that community. Then when he left the UNC, he won the first election when he left as an independent. So people were like, well, that might be a working plan. We do things for the people, and then they would vote for us. But no, when you go speak to the residents of Shogunas West, why they voted for him is because they thought that he was going to rejoin the UNC. So they voted for him just as, a statement to the UNC that this is the man we want. Now, when it was seen in the election after that, you know what's going to happen is he's going to remain independent. And he went back up in Shogunas West. He didn't go back up, but his party went. They lost worse than the PNM, I think, in Shogunas West. That's the nature of Trinidad and Tobago politics. If you pave the smoothest road in a PNM stronghold and you go up for elections there, chances are it's not going to make a difference. Same for the UNC stronghold. It's partisan nature of politics, so that doesn't work. Now, on the flip side, where we're talking about why don't the contractors just do more in general, I think that is a good idea, and that's what I talk about. Now, I do think many contractors do a lot. It's just some people may not be aware. There are many businesses that pave the roads around their business, pave the roads that their employees have to use, pave entrance roads, they build bridges around their community. There are many companies that do that. But the reality is our country is set up in a way where these businesses are paying taxes. If I'm a business and I made 15 million in profit last year, the government taxed me 7 million of my profit, basically. 7 million went away to the government. And then the same government took my 7 million and then is asking me to pave the road. I'm going to be like, that isn't making sense. But if I am paying less to the government and then I have to use that to see about my infrastructure around me, I do think many companies will do that. Here's why companies will do that. The companies make money by this. It's not depending on the companies to be selfless and caring for humanity. You're depending on the companies to do what companies do, make money. If a company needs a road paved in order to make money, and if they don't pave the road, no one else is going to pave the road. Do you think they will pave the road? Of course they will pave that road. If a company needs a bridge to be built in order for them to make money, do you think they will build the bridge themselves? Of course they will build the bridge themselves. That's the point I'm making. Not that the companies will do it privately out of the goodness of their heart. They will do it privately because that's how they make money.
Yeah, but you talk about it in this day and age, why they can't do it without any kind of
because that's an insane thing to depend on. I don't want a system that tries to depend on the kindness in people's hearts, because I cannot depend on. Would you like to depend on the kindness in someone's heart? Do you leave your doors locked, your car unlocked, all your security open because of the kindness in people's heart? No. That's why I prefer free market systems, capitalist systems, where we don't have to depend on people's kindness, we depend on people's selfishness. That's basically what capitalism does. I could depend on you doing the best you will do for your own interest. And you could depend on me doing the best I will do for my own interest. And I would like a system where that's how we look at things. We depend on everyone doing the best they could do for their own self-interest. I don't want anyone to attempt to sell me the Nancy story that what we're going to do is depend on some very educated person to go there and seek out of the kindness of their heart the best interest of anyone. I don't believe you. I don't believe that that's what you're going to do. I think if you were to get an honest answer from Dr. Rowley, you were to get him to say, are you more concerned about your and your family interests, or the interest of Nathan Springer, who is a random citizen of Trinidad and Tobago living in Waterloo area? I'm pretty sure he will say himself. So I like a system that sees that as an honest perspective, that what we are doing is seeing about our own self-interest. Don't attempt to sell me the lie that actually the politicians are seeing. No. Everyone is seeing about their own interest, and let's depend on that. Ria Ward says, I find we're not even addressing the fact that there's money to use and the government does thief it. That 7 million tax that the company had to pay, they pocket some, and then TNT had to work with what they decide to give. Ria, that's what I'm saying. I want a system where I could depend on the fact that I think if you don't look at people hard enough, they're going to steal the money you give them. The part that confuses me is so many people in Trinidad are very accustomed with politicians stealing our money, using our money for all kind of other purposes, but yet somehow we believe that the solution would be to give them more money, to give them more power. The government right now is using the resources that we give them not in the way that we want them to do it. So the solution for that is to give them more resources, and somehow they're going to do better. I don't know if I buy that. Huh?
I'm asking something. Do you think things are going to get better in this country?
I don't know. I don't know.
No. Let me just say, a person with your
thinking,
caliber of knowledge, and understanding and observing everything that goes on around him. So a dot on the I and a cross of the T. Do we think Trinidad and Tobago have a chance in the future?
Yes. You asked a different question there, and I appreciate that you gave me an out. Yes, you said a chance. Of course, there's a chance in terms of possibility. Now,
how can we? No, wait, hold on. How can we have a chance where these old people just thieving out everything, and it's hard no way for them to come out? How? And I'm not talking about PNM, I talk about PNM, UNC.
Yeah. Well,
because
you see,
I hate to hear this PNM and UNC shipping this. I don't know why it had that in the first place, but
you see, history tells an interesting story. So, our leaders presently aren't the most evil and corrupt leaders to ever live. Hitler lived, and Germany is still existing today. There was Napoleon in France, and France is still existing today. There were extremely evil pharaohs, and Egypt still exists thousands of years later. So, in terms of having bad leaders and that somehow meaning that the country won't survive or won't thrive in the future, I don't think that some of these leaders are capable enough to even crash the country if they wanted to. It's a complex thing to do. So that's why I will say, in terms of if you're talking about a chance, of course there's a chance that we will improve, etc., etc., etc. If you're talking about if I think we're going to get better, that's predicting the future, and I cannot do that. I don't even want to attempt to do that. I don't know what direction we're going to go. So it's entirely possible that the natural gas and oil prices go on a 10-year soar, and we see oil and gas prices soar for the next 10 years. We get an oil boom for the next decade. And yes, our government still does as they do, and they take a lot of the extra money, but somehow a good bit of that extra money spreads around the country in some way, and we get the manufacturing industry increasing. So, for example, we saw recently there was news coming out that our economy expanded. Our GDP rose more than they expected because the non-oil and gas manufacturing sector, which by the way is the manufacturing sector that the guy I spoke to in the conversation is in charge of. So make sure to tune into that conversation on my YouTube channel, Nathan Spring, over there on YouTube. I'm looking to drop that hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday, sometime very soon. But yes, the non-oil and gas manufacturing sector boomed in last year and at the starting of this year. There was a boom. So it may be that we're going to see a boom in our manufacturing sector, and there may be nothing that our corrupt politicians could even do about it. That's why I regularly, when I speak in the lives, I'm not speaking about what we want our politicians to do in and of itself. I'm speaking about what we want ourselves to do. So my aim is to give people enough of a knowledge of what is going on in politics, how politics works, etc., so that you're not looking at these politicians to give you the solutions, but you understand that some solutions could be from within you and outside of the politics. Maybe if Trinidad and Tobago sees more and more that we don't depend on these politicians in the same way, then we'd be able to leave some of this. So, example, I was looking at a video over in the UNC and it created some bacchanal over the weekend where a pundit was trying to get a petition out there to get Kamala Persad-Bissessar out of the head of the UNC. And then I was looking at an interview with the guy, and some men were shoving him out of the way and etc. in the interview. And I was like, what kind of nonsense is going on here? What kind of madness is this? And you understand the reason these things happen in our politics is because of the position we put politics in. It's on a pedestal in our society. Politics is the solution. Doesn't work like that.
So hear this, right? I want to get your last two thoughts.
Yeah.
Two things. One, what do you think about, because I read this article today concerning the 9 prisoners.
Yeah.
Well, the nine freedmen who go and get 2 million each. Like, one, what do you think about that? And two, what do you think about the constant, I will say this, the constant harassment of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago on the nation roads from police officers and license officers? What is your take on that?
You know, those very two things were what we started talking tonight about. What we started off talking tonight about. The harassment of the citizens on the nation's roads and that 20 million going out to those prisoners. Now, the 20 million going out to the prisoners, it might be fair. It might be fair. Because if you arrest men, keep them in jail for years, and then say that they are not guilty of the crime that you arrested them for, I think it's only fair that you pay them for the time you had them in jail. That seems only fair. Now, for that to be so, while on the flip side, we have corruption in our judicial and police system, you're wondering if it's like the system is made to give people money. Like, if 90% of our murder cases last this kind of inordinate length of time, I wonder how many more accused men are going to be made murderers. Because this may very well be the format for many more people to sue the state. I may presume that this might have that former attorney general who took that case. This may have him with a very long list of potential clients in the future looking to sue the state for the very same thing. And the problems we have in our judicial system create the situation where nearly every murder case is going to take this kind of inordinate amount of time. So yeah, so I agree that you did them an injustice by prosecuting them in jail and finding them innocent after so long. I agree it's an injustice. But when you have a judicial system that creates the reality where every case works out like this, to pay people for that, you're understanding that every time the police arrest someone and charge them for murder, there's a 50-50 between either we're going to send them to jail or they're going to come out a millionaire. That seems like a very strange thing. And the other part about the police harassing citizens on the nation's roads, I think, and I was speaking about this at the very beginning, I think some of this stems, one, from the reality of what the police are. Police, I don't know how many of you have been following recently Tyree Nichols, was it, or Nicholas, in the United States. A guy was murdered by 5 police officers. And a black guy, here's the thing, there were 5 black police officers. So you can't claim racism now, even though some very strange people are saying these 5 black officers were somehow working on behalf of white supremacy, which I find to be an asinine thing. It's not white supremacy, it's the nature of the police system. You're giving humans power over other humans. The likelihood is that you're going to find out that there are some psychopaths and sociopaths within the ranks of the police, where if you give them the power to be able to beat up on other human beings, they're going to take it overboard. Lovely listening, Kwesi Robinson says, I haven't listened in a while, but I'm glad I did. Have a great night. Great night to you too, Kwesi Robinson. If any of you are interested in taking in a conversation, I have a conversation with Mr. Kwesi Robinson, who is the chairman of the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. I have that right now on my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer over there. Very interesting conversation talking about road paving, etc. If you're trying to figure out the inner workings of that, head over and taking that conversation. But yeah, it's the reality of the police service, the reality of of how the police service is structured. I made a video. One of my first videos on TikTok was about simple distillation, where if you boil water and you allow water to cool at certain temperatures, certain things will come out of the water. Police service, understand what the police service is doing. You're asking the society, you're putting out an announcement in society. Listen, does anyone in society want to be able to have violent authority over other members of the society while having the moral high ground doing so? You might find that, yes, some upstanding members of society come out who really want to make sure that they keep the rules and keep society in order. But you might also find that the bullies in high school and the people who were bullied in high school and want to come back and take revenge on society, those are the people that come out of the woodwork sometime in police. And you see it on the streets. These guys, they were bullied in high school or something, and they're trying to make back up for lost respect that they had back in teenage years. That's some of the reason. And we don't have a good system of keeping the police accountable. That's a reality. We don't have a good system of keeping the police accountable. So because of that, the lack of accountability plus the reality of what the police brings, you get that kind of treatment from the police in Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, I'm talking quite a bit. And compounding on top of that, the colonial nature of how Trinidad and Tobago was created. We were created with that top-down colonial nature. So people in Trinidad behave still, a lot of people still behave like the citizens of the country and the leaders of the country. They behave like the government is the leadership and the police are there to tell us what to do, and okay, sorry boss. There's that kind of attitude, and the police have that attitude looking down too. So it works for a whole toxic arrangement. They are really toxic arrangement.
And now these citizens harassment.
What do you mean the citizens harassment?
With all them roadblock and
right. I spoke about that one. The roadblocks are money making exercises. You don't
They
do.
have a quota to meet, dog. They have a quota to meet. Like, yeah, really pushing it there. Because honestly, the police can really sit down and charge whoever it is they want to charge, you know. I mean, they have a quota to meet. So them roadblock exercises and things, it's not even necessary at the time, you know.
At the same point in time, that quota is not necessary. Because when the government and the higher authorities have money, when they have money, they squander any money and then come in and the citizens don't have to pay out of their pockets when month end come, right? And then after that now, they start to come and pay money again. That making any sense?
No, it's not making sense. I agree with you. I agree the quotas don't make any sense. I spoke about this in the earlies. I don't think the government taking money from working class people benefits the country. I don't, like, I was making this example. If you bounce up on a guy with a third-hand vehicle, an oldish vehicle, bought it from the 2000s, it was manufactured, and his brakes light isn't working, one of his brakes light is broken, he has some smooth tires. You think that man wants the car to be in that state? No. Very likely, that man is saving up. If you know anything about people who own cars, that man is currently very likely saving up for one of the projects on his vehicle. And then you stop him and give him a ticket for $1,500 and tell him he has to pay that. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that his vehicle is going to become more safe after that? Or do you think you're just going to postpone the time necessary for the man to fix his vehicle? You're going to make it longer. So it's not about road safety. It's about collecting more money for the government. And I don't think that benefits the country because the government isn't going to use that money to the most efficient purpose. So I agree with you there. It is to some extent harassing the country. I do agree.
Yeah, because you know it's 20 roadblocks, 30 roadblocks in 1 week, and inconvenience.
That's all I don't know nothing about that in
No, it had it in Central because at the end of the day, look, Friday, they locked down the highway, license officers and police officers.
Don't you think about it? Is mountain people going about and they drinking They're spending their money. Like, it's mountain people getting paid, so that's the best time to have a roadblock.
But here's the thing. That's the best time to have a roadblock. If you're, let's say I made a business and my business model is taking money from drivers, then that's the best time to have a roadblock. But that's not what a government is supposed to be for. The government is there to try to make order of the society. Taking money from people at month end, when they just get paid after, as they say, the 100 days of January. January month end, after people just struggled through the Christmas season and they just got paid, taking money from them doesn't produce more order in the Trinidadian society. That doesn't produce more safety in the Trinidadian society. So I understand in terms of making money, why, yes, that will make sense doing a roadblock at month end. Obviously, it makes sense. But in terms of trying to make order in your country, that doesn't work for that.
I believe it's a time for a change, and I hoping that the people that had the position in these ministries and offices, I hope anyone in here tonight.
Yeah, Drift. Let me hear you, Drift.
I hope all them make a difference.
All right, go ahead, Drift. We hear you, Abdan. Go ahead, Drift.
This country for too much bribe and nonsense. You understand? If Kamala come in, that's a madness still. Same thing over and over and over and over. You see how you speaking there?
Yeah.
You need to go up to the Prime Minister and deal with the situation.
Honestly, dog, like I feel as though when you climb the ranks, dog, and you really genuinely want to change something, you will realize that shit's so fucked up that you have no choice to, you either continue it as somebody else do, or you go and you try to do something and they try to kill it. Like, that is my perspective on it if you're going into this politics game with a genuine heart.
No, but you're wrong. You're wrong. Now, at the end of the day, if you're going with a positive heart and you say, hey, I am going to make a difference. Despite
and you
all
use
the
the money, that's how you're actually supposed to use it. That means the people in the government lose out more money, which basically means when you fuck with somebody money, they will look to kill you. You see that in every single type of leader out there that actually try to do good in the world, they kill them.
That's partially true. That is partially true. And there is the reality where they might kill you if you try to touch someone's money. But on top of that, what some people don't realize, and it might benefit you to listen to the conversation with Kwesi Robinson, because he's a politician and he is in charge of a whole regional corporation. And what some people don't realize is that even if you do go up there, even if I have a good heart, Nathan Springer, you'll find Nathan songs like he makes sense good. Nathan goes up there to be some kind of elected leader. I reach into the position. And when I reach there, I recognize that I can't actually do what I want to do. Because, for example, Mr. Robinson was telling me about the fact that, okay, there's the money problem. I have a budget of, let's say I have 170 million in the Piako Tunapuna Regional Corporation, as he does have. That's a lot of money, 170 million. But something like 110 or 20 million of that is just salaries. Just salaries alone. So then you only have a very limited amount of money to work with. And then you recognize, well, you have to pay for the garbage collection. That one has to happen, and that's 44 million. So that disappears also. And you recognize, well, okay, I have a lot of good ideas, but now I only have 20 million to take care of the whole Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. And if I were to just pave the roads, $20 million isn't even going to pave quarter of the roads in my district. So there's a money problem where I don't even have enough money to do what I want. So even if I have the good heart, there isn't enough money. That's one. Then two, I recognize that, okay, let's say there is enough money for me to do something. I think this should be done. I've sourced the financing for it. Beautiful. Then I recognize the nature of how political systems work in the West, democratic systems. I can't say something and get it done. I am not the king. I am not the emperor. For me to get something done, I have to pass it by my advisors, then pass it by the cabinet with the prime minister signing off on it, and then the permanent secretaries have to execute it, and then all of those under the permanent secretaries have to work on the project. So my beautiful idea that I have in my head would be bastardized by the time it reaches to the people. So even if you have a good idea, the nature of the political system, it's like a prime minister's job isn't only what a prime minister, the individual, could do. It's what the prime minister's portfolio, what the legal system, what the system that has been built up by society over the years allows the prime minister to do. Do you think Dr. Rowley could wake up in the morning and just stop something from happening in the country on a whim? It doesn't actually work like that. So even if you get in there with the good heart, it's not necessarily going to cause that change. That's why, just now, that's why I always say Abdan. My point, before you jump in, that's why my point always is the solution isn't in politics. The solution is in the individuals. Just now, I'll finish. Just now, Abdan, I'll finish and you'll continue. The solution isn't in politics. The solution is in the individual citizens. All right, Abdan, let me hear you.
Yeah, but how can Mr. Rowley wake up a morning and say, I go in and stop Wassa from digging up all new paved roads, right? How he can't do that? But you could stop a woman from coming and protesting in front of Parliament?
Yes, let me show you how. Rowley, let me explain that. Rowley wakes up, tomorrow is Wednesday, Rowley wakes up Wednesday morning, and driving down from wherever he drive down from, he hit his PM1 vehicle, hit a whole bram, and he say, oh gosh, we had to fix this, Wassa had to stop. All right, how does he do that? The people who dig up the road in Wassa, oh sorry, Tuesday, wow, my day speeding, Tuesday, he wake up Tuesday morning and that happened. Yeah, so the people who dig up the road for Wassa are contractors a lot of the time. They're getting their contract very likely from a senior official inside of Wassa. That senior official inside of Wassa is getting his instructions from a senior official on top of him. They're getting their instructions from a board. The board is making those decisions. The minister who is under the prime minister, if the prime minister wants to tackle Wassa, he has to call up Minister Marvin Gonzalez, or Gonzalez, however you say, and say, Minister of Public Utilities, Wassa is digging up the road, make that stop now. What the minister can do, he could call the directors of Wassa and ask them. He doesn't have power to make a decision in Wassa because he is not in the corporate governance structure of Wassa. The minister is not the CEO of Wassa. He cannot make that decision on behalf of Wassa. He could call and ask the directors to do that. The directors could tell him no. And then he could say, okay, well, we're going to fire them and put new people in place. And he asks the new people to do that. Now, bear in mind, all of this cannot happen tomorrow. All of this very likely has legal framework where, you have to take some time. Firing the whole board if he doesn't have grounds, every board member might turn around and sue him for it. You're understanding the complications here. While on the other hand, a lady protesting, she might be doing it illegally, which is already on the law books as breaking a law. So all you have to do is get the police to enforce the law. That's not a difficult thing. And these are some of the difficulties sometimes that we don't understand looking from the outside inside at politics. Not saying that the politicians are doing the best job, but sometimes we don't understand the complicated reality of what is bureaucracy.
The thing about it, I agree here with Ms. Groupie. They know how to do it when it benefits them. Any day, you will know when to do something when it benefits you. So why just can't do the right thing when it benefits everyone?
That's will never happen.
There's a certain underhanded way to get things done when you really want your way to get it done now, though. Like, it have the diplomatic way to do things and the correct way to do things, then it have the underhanded way to do things, which works faster.
I know all of that. But still, at the end of the day, why at this point in time, people still doing this?
Okay, Ria, Ria said that the ministers insist on their way. Can you say something that the ministers have changed on a whim like that? What is something that the ministers have changed on a whim like this? Changed. Who could name something?
The publishing ISC results right after, like I think like low percentage of people pass. I think the Minister of Education said, no, we're not gonna publish that. Right.
That's something that they could have done. Now you're seeing when we're looking at this, when people state examples of what the ministers have done on a whim, something to look at is look at the significance of it. See if it's something like changing WASA policy on digging roads versus changing the printing of results.
I totally agree. It's two different things. It's two different things because I think at that point you had to get involved, like the Minister of Infrastructure and all that and thing involved. Like if it is, we was to implement a policy where like, all right, WASA come and dig up the road. It's not their responsibility to fix it. But we pan that over to somebody else, but they have to call it in and have somebody else on it over. That's great.
All right.
But again, there's more money.
HB Nikki, just now let me say something for HB Nikki. HB Nikki, I am not making excuses for them. Anyone who follows enough of my lives know that I enjoy lambasting the government on a daily basis. Just now I'm done. But
if WASA is going to dig up a newly paved or a functional road that has no cracks or crevices in it, if they are going to do work on that road, if it have a contracting company that has to come and pave the road right after, we know.
But they can do that.
No, wait, hold on.
Just now, let Abdan finish. I want to hear the point.
No, it's not that,
Yeah.
They could do that. But if you know you want to dig up the road and the contractor coming 3 to 6 months after to pave the road, they make arrangements with the contractor and say, okay, contractor, you're available on Wednesday to come and pave the road one time? Yes, we are available. Okay, but we could dig up the road on Wednesday and only go pave it one time on spot.
I don't disagree. Listen, Abdan, let me address a few things and then you go in drift and then Ria going. First thing first, Abdan, I don't disagree that that is what should happen. But what I'm saying is that these things don't happen on a whim like that. It's not just now. In order for something like that to happen, bear in mind, the person who has to pave the road might be the local government regional corporation, while WASA just patches the road. The problem that just now, I'm not asking this. The local government is in charge of the vast majority of roads. So what happens sometimes is after the local government paves the road, WASA gets a complaint that there's a leak in the road, so they go to do that. Now, I agree that there should be more communication, etc., etc., etc. But you have to understand, these are massive companies. This isn't a brethren calling a brethren. They are companies with bureaucratic structures. Well done, Rooney. Next, I have to address HB Nikki, where she said COVID, they pass laws as quick as the next day to stop them, so stop making excuses for them. I don't make excuses for politicians because just now, you will get to go next drift. I don't make excuses for politicians. That's not what I'm doing. But bear in mind how they did that during COVID. They called a state of emergency. That's how they do things like that. If they want to make that day after decision as of midnight, they need a state of emergency. And that's why people worry about a state of emergency, because states of emergency give the politicians a lot more power. And this was what I was talking about in the earlies. Nearly everyone who is speaking here, what you're asking for, and you don't understand it at the same time, you're asking to give the government more power. You want Dr. Rowley to be able to have the power to wake up in the morning, call a state company and make a decision on behalf of a state company. Now, you do understand that, yes, what you're allowing might allow for WASA to pave the road instantly, but what you're allowing also would allow for him to call and say, state company, well, you need to come and do a work by my house. You're giving him a lot of power. The problems with these things is that these are people. You cannot give him the power and say, okay, you could only do good things. You give him the power and he could do bad and good. So I am of the opinion more, don't give them the power. Yeah, drift. Yeah, drift.
You don't make me forget what I say, you know.
Well, when you remember, Ria, go ahead.
Right. So I'd like to address 2 points there. The first point is about what you were just talking about. So Nathan, you're really trying to tell me, right, that the beloved Prime Minister often likes to remind everybody that he's Doctor, not just Mr. He's Doctor, the Honorable, right? Has a party where he chairs a party, he leads a party where there are certain members who ministerial portfolios, right? Something as simple as sitting down with the Minister of Public Utilities and sitting down with the Minister of Works and Transport and sitting down with the Minister of Local Government and asking them to present to me what are your plans for the next 12 months. So for your financial year, October to September for your financial year, so that at some point in time, all of their plans are in alignment with each other as best as possible. So there's hardly any conflict.
Let me just put a caveat there, Ria. You will continue. Let me just ask on that one.
The operations manager here and the operations manager there can't present that to their ministers so that they can present that, so that they can have that discussion about.
That's one.
Business and sense don't make sense.
That's one, Ria. One, that's assuming that all projects are planned a year ahead. Bear in mind, they will.
Even if it is, let us be real. If it is a pipe burst tomorrow, if you're telling me that pipe burst and it was just installed 2 months ago, what you're telling me is either rash happen, where it is somebody do something, knowing full well it wasn't good, but they just wanted the money.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's what happened.
Or two, all right. Or two, whatever job was done was not done. So it was pretended to have been done.
All right. Here's the thing. I understand what you're saying there, and I'm not defending corruption or anything like that. But that doesn't negate what I just said. How are you going to get the list of projects being done for the next year when some projects are decided in the moment? That's one. Two, there are separation of powers, where WASA has the power to make certain decisions outside of the minister. The minister does not govern WASA like that. He is an overseer to make sure that the governors of WASA have what they say they need. That's what it's supposed to be. That's two. The local government minister has even less governance over the local governor, the regional corporations, because there are some regional corporations controlled by the United National Congress. He cannot go in there and demand of them their ideas for the next year. He's not going to get it. So even if they wanted to sit together and get all of those plans streamlined, they will not have all of those plans. Area.
Okay. But with the same point, is it not possible, period, regardless of which county or what borough, whatever it is that they're in, whoever is the local government body at the time, whether it be European, is it never possible that in order for work to be done, there is communication between the different state entities or ministries, however you want to call it, the state agencies, to be able to get things done in a proper manner? So if it is, I am Shogunas and I am run by the UNC, it is impossible for me to have, let's say WASA has an operations center and they are also divided into districts or counties or however, right? And I know the supervisor or the manager for St. George, for Caroni North is Nathan Springer. And he is the manager, and then under him there's a supervisor and probably a clerk or a clerk dealing with different areas, particularly in. So even if it's I call and I get to speak to Empress, it's like, actually no, that is not me, that is Miss Nisi, let me transfer you, or this is her extension, or whatever. So you mean that at any point in time, my basic point is, at any point in time, communication to just make sure, this is what we're planning to do. Do you all have any plans going on for here, or anything upcoming? Or is it that a year ago, you all would have put in a pipe underneath here that a year later, you all have to replace, or you all have to schedule maintenance, or you all have to do anything? So no communication at all. Even in this day and age, when technology is so beautiful, and let's be real, the government is still paying the phone bill for the government offices.
Yes.
Call the government, even if it requires you to be on the phone for an hour. Guess what that is? That's not your personal bill.
I agree.
The government
I
bills to
agree.
run up. So at no point in time, any way, form, or fashion,
Let me hear you done.
to get these things, to get a proper working communication, to get proper things going possible.
Yeah, I'm done. What is that?
The government to call and ask a question, these ministers do have to call and ask a question, Here you tell me, don't always line with each other.
You all are not on the. Okay. Wait. Before you get. Pause.
The ministers are not necessarily responsible for the operations. So that's why I'm saying, if it is I work in the operations, or if it is I work in roadworks in Shogunas Borough Corporation, or San Juan Lavatel Regional Corporation, and I need to call WASA to make sure, listen, there's been a big pothole, like a car, the whole tire went down inside, and it ended up mashing up the bumper too, and we getting too fast, so we're gonna fix the road. It have anything you have to do on this road before we pave it?
I'm going. Okay, listen. Just now. I've done. You'll say it after. You'll say it after I've done. I've done. You will speak after. You'll speak after me. Here's the thing. Remember your point. Take a mental note of it. The thing is, I think some people overestimate the power ministers have. Now, again, I don't want this to sound like I'm trying to defend the government or the ministers. I'll say this for any government. Sometimes people overestimate the power government has. Now, many of these ministers may have more ability to steal money than they have ability to change policy. Bear that in mind. So, when you're talking, exactly, it's the structure of the system. Some people, no, listen, some people don't seem to understand this. The structure of the system is as such that the ministers are in charge. The legal structure of the system, bear in mind, the legal structure of our political system, listen to this, listen carefully, the legal structure of our political system is as such that the minister's job is to craft policy, while the permanent, just now, listen, you have to listen, while the permanent secretary is charged with executing policy. The permanent secretary. How many of you voted for a permanent secretary? Anybody here ever voted for a permanent secretary? Anyone ever voted out a permanent secretary? No, you've never done that. They don't change. The same one is there that was there for the partnership that is there for PNM. They're in charge of executing policy. So the minister could talk till his face is blue. If the permanent secretary is incapable of executing policy, it's not going to be very well executed. That's one. Do you think it's that easy? I would like one of you to go through the history of Trinidad and Tobago and find one instance where a government fired a permanent secretary and how well that went, if it went at all. You see, some people don't understand there are legal systems. The government of Trinidad and Tobago is not the king or the emperor. There are legal
Listen, I am the best
limitations.
person to comment on these things. Listen to me. Okay, a couple things. Well, y'all are going so fast. One, so Empress put something in the comments about government workers who work, they don't answer the phone. Hear me out. Even in that plan that I put forward about making contact or whatever, if it is I work Shogunas Borough Corporation and I call WASA today and I don't get through, I should be able to tell my manager X is the case, and he or she will tell me, make note of it, write it down so in the report, so that when it is we do try to communicate via email or via phone call, 2 days later we have no response and we go and pave the road and WASA come 5 days later and do it. We could now tell WASA that they have to pay for the repairs of the road simply because we have tried to make contact with them.
And how are you going to get them to pay it?
Repairs your car.
How are you going to get them to pay it?
Well, repair or whatever. The point is to cover yourself and say, listen, We are now suing WASA because they have disrepaired a road. That's not a word. It's disrepair road. They have unrepair. Is that a word?
Legally, by the way, legally, the state fund face, you're overdoing it, you're an IFRO. Legally, the state cannot sue itself. So, for example, the Ministry of Education owes MTS, which is a state company, billions of dollars. MTS needs their money to do their functions. MTS cannot sue the Ministry of Education by law. By law. You see, there are limits, and these limitations are there hopefully to protect us, hopefully to protect us. So the thing is, if WASA refuses to call, okay, you tell your manager to make a note of it, they make a note of it, all right, they will have a complaint against WASA. They will stack that with the 5 million other complaints against WASA that will do nothing.
All right, let me ask you this. That's now.
Wait, hold on, wait. Before you continue, on the note that you made with the permanent secretary and the ministers and whatnot, before, the permanent secretaries were considered public servants. They still are, but they were moved recently from their placement of who pays, of how their salary is negotiated to under the Salary Reviews Commission, right?
Ronnie.
The people who negotiate the permanent secretary's salary, the very same people that handle the minister's salary, right? So this is not me coming from nowhere. I just know this because Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God the Father, right? There are ministers who have more power today simply because of the benefit of not being classed with regular public servants anymore.
You know, because all this
When it is
corruption
the
to what
ministers
bosses.
say, I want more of this or I want less of that, this is something that completely irks me from government to government. Regardless of who is in power, regardless of if it's PNM or UNC, or if it's Nathan or Abdon or whoever, the operations and the work of the ministry are the operations and the work of the ministry. If I'm supposed to open community center, if I'm supposed to give out food card, if I am supposed to work on education, regardless of who the minister is, the mandate of the ministry is the mandate of the ministry. These are the things that they're supposed to do regardless of who is at the head. So when you have ministers coming in and then dictating the pace of the ministry where they have only been for 2 days, it gives the ministry a lack of vision. Because who is supposed to be the head of the ministry is the permanent secretary who has been there and in the services for some time to understand what is required, when it's required, how it's required, if it's required, how best to go about it, what has worked before, what has not worked before, etc., etc. But again, because they're now negotiated along with these ministers, they also get their other benefits that are not within the service. It could be probably they're also on some sort of committee or some sort of board which are popping up all over the place.
Yes.
These things are happening. And guess what? While all of us are here bickering on the government and their money, them sitting down on the money we bickering about. They're there.
Now, you're saying things that I agree with, Ria. I agree with all of that. All of that, I fully agree. I agree that a lot of them are corrupt. I fully agree. I am saying that they have made a system where the a system has been made where the responsibilities are so spread out that it is legitimately very difficult to point a finger at any one person because no one person can cure the problem. There's no one person that you could point at can solve the problem.
No, it is a whole system.
Exactly. That's kind of the basis of the point I'm making here.
I would like you to point out a permanent secretary today that stands up to the minister.
I don't know.
Yes, all right. Look at example. Watch how they treat poor people in the hospital. It's whole day you're going in the hospital and waiting. Whole day. Whole day, you know.
Again, hold on, wait, but all that is part of the same system that Nathan is talking about. The fact that the hospitals are understaffed, they lack beds, they lack certain resources.
No.
Hello?
No.
Excuse me?
Hold on.
Underserved.
The hospitals are not understaffed. What is going on is
Correct.
it's a friend business.
Good.
People,
Because if you is a doctor and you know me, I get too fast.
Young people. I know a lot of young females and males going to school to make a betterment, and they are not being hired for years.
All right.
Why is that?
Correct.
Okay, Abdon, that's a good point. That is a good point.
The government is regency, right? Because the government is an employment agency. That the purpose of the government to give employment.
I suppose he's talking about in the medical field. I know of doctors who finish their degree, finish their internship, and are still waiting on employment. Trinidad is producing doctors at an amazing rate. Every dog and their friend want to be. Let me just say that sounds insulting, but
there's an excess of doctors, and when they don't get through, they basically leave the country.
Exactly.
Brain drain and go somewhere
exactly.
else. Now, I totally understand what it is you mean by, like, okay, if you know somebody, you get a job easy, right? And I totally agree with that in every single other field. And the hospital is understaffed. I don't understand why the hospital understaffed.
And not everybody is doctors. You have different positions that help the hospital to function. It's not just nurses and doctors.
Without a doubt, the hospital is understaffed. The question might be:
you always hear a nurse complaining, "Do I have enough nurses? Do I have enough nurses? Do I have enough?"
And when you watch them, they're on the phone in the background.
I wouldn't do the nurses that. Don't do the nurses that.
No. Hold on.
Let me ask you a question, right? If you work 5 days a week at 16 hours or 12 between 12 to 16 hours, 5 days a week, you find that is regular working hours? Just asking. That if it is, they were really properly staffed and they could maintain instead, let's say, 8-hour shifts where they could properly try to balance their home and personal life. You don't think that would have been better?
But hear this, right?
Yes.
If that hold on. If that is where you come on at RIA, well then shut down all programs and courses that making you become a orderly, a helper, a nurse, or a doctor. Shut down all courses. Shut down all programs because it doesn't make no sense. It's not making no sense if you're not hiring nobody after.
Here's the thing. Just now. Here's the thing. I like that what HB Nikki says. HB Nikki Groupie, you sound like someone who works in or around the hospital because I spoke to some people there. Maybe one of my conversations I have to get somebody who working in the management at the hospital and let them explain some of those things to me. And that is one of the things they talk about. They hire a lot of people on contract.
That actually makes sense what she's saying. Yeah, yes. Because here's the thing, right? If you hire somebody on a contract, you don't necessarily have to pay them, like, let's say, like, NIS, I think.
Right. And I remember Ria was talking about this a while back, where the government in general is doing that across many ministries, where they are removing quite a bit of their permanent staff and hiring people based on contracts. Abdan, if you were the first up, if you could... Sorry about that. She didn't mean to mute you. She was trying to get you down. Just allow Roni some time up there. I'm taking you down. Though it's not anything mean. I'm just allowing Roni some time up so she'll get her point and you'd be able to come back after that. Don't worry about it. But yeah, there is that point where there's that contract side, and I agree with that. That's something strange that's going on. I don't know the full thing of it. Here's how to solve a lot of this. Turn everything private. Everything private, all of this solves. Let's see if you would be willing to pay those nurses you find don't work enough, if you'll pay them to see about your health privately. Yeah, Roni, what you had to say?
Oh God, I had so much.
Yeah, well, you
But I'm just not know next. Hear this, right?
You talk all night, hold on.
Empress, you can't come up here and then spend 5 minutes thinking about what you're going to say. You were supposed to be writing down your point.
I'll block you. Anyway, I can't block you.
Roni is our moderator. She can mute you. Careful, Ria. She can mute you there.
But this is what I want to say, especially on the last point. In Trinidad and Tobago, not recently, but like about 5 years ago, it had an article in the newspaper that 500 doctors unemployed. Great. when you read into the story, all of them general practitioners. How much general practitioner the hospital need? But
Yeah, so that's a big one on your game.
no. You have to be specialized. That's why, like, when they hire the Cubanists and the Cuban doctors, those are specialized people. People don't want to go and get specialized. What is Nathan doing? People are not getting specialized and they want the job. If you have a hospital, if they have a hospital and they say they need 100 doctors, general practitioners, then they could only hire 100 general practitioners, right?
Empress, are you
Mhm.
aware that unless you do like dentistry or veterinary, like the general degree in medicine is the bachelors of medicine and the bachelors of surgery, the MBBS. Then after they become a doctor like that, then they have to specialize further by going back into studies.
Exactly. Go back and study.
Right.
If you're
No,
not
but this is what I'm.
working,
But
go
but
back and
but how they
study.
get into fund that if they're not working and the only
Alone.
place they could work is in
Take
the
alone.
medical field.
You
But
could
I'm not
also
saying that the
do-
government owes them all jobs. That's what I was going to say.
Exactly.
The government don't owe them
Because the government
all
doesn't
jobs.
send them to study.
Well,
To general practitioner.
Here's the
Why
thing.
they have to send them to specialize.
I
And then when
agree.
they
Okay, the
specialize,
government
they
doesn't
go
owe
out.
them jobs, but by the government not sending them for the jobs, then the government now has to face the consequence of the healthcare system being hamstrung, the healthcare system not running at full efficiency. Now, the thing is, the healthcare system is a difficult thing. You look at countries, the best countries with nationalized healthcare in the world, the Canadian and the British systems. They say they are the best nationalized healthcare. And you look at people over there and they're complaining about the healthcare in Canada, complaining about the healthcare in England. You look at the nurses, they're currently protesting in England about pay over there. The thing is, healthcare is something that is nearly always going to have a higher demand than supply. And I kind of have a problem with nationalized healthcare to some extent in the first place, where you afford free healthcare for everyone, while in some cases, negative healthcare results are a consequence of decisions made. So there are some people could eat themselves into using millions of dollars out of our nationalized healthcare budget, and that shouldn't be. So the thing is, you have to understand a public healthcare system is a difficult thing to run in the first place. It will never be seen as perfect.
Alright,
And that
that's
is
now, that's
why
now.
they have also taken the same approach as with these regional corporations, whereby the RHA manages them, but they are still divided: the Northwest Regional Health Authority, the Southwest Regional Health Authority, the Eastern Regional Health Authority, etc., etc., so that it's not cumbersome one unit to have to deal with them all. They are located by location.
Alright, listen, listen this. Alright, let me put it. Watch how the crime win. Watch how them big boys fighting for position. You understand? Crime get done. Them fighting for power.
I think crime
You
necessary.
understand?
No,
They're fighting for power.
Justice system. No, I mean serious.
why say it's sifted?
Crime would over justice system. So we need crime in a way.
Well, the justice system needs crime. I wouldn't say we need crime like that. I will say crime would always exist. Crime is a result of human nature. Human nature, if somebody thinks they could get away with something, there will be somebody who will try it. Crime is a reality of the human nature.
That's true. That's 100% true. Why you laughing, real dog? Is that true
No,
statement?
sorry, is that comment? Is that comment? Is that one comment in that whole thing that threw me off real bad? It's not any.
This man having his own conversation.
Yes.
But yeah,
Pieces,
no,
dog,
the
I don't
thing
know.
is, crime in that situation, crime is a reality, a human reality. There's no place on earth without crime. there are realities to Trinidad's existence that makes crime higher. The fact that Trinidad is multicultural will always make crime higher too. Yeah. But also government corruption does lean into crime. I don't deny that. However, to make it seem like the reason there is crime is because a government minister is doing something, I think gives some excuses for the criminals. The criminals in Trinidad and Tobago aren't people who are hungry and looking for a meal, and it's because the government ministers are so corrupt they can't get food for their family, so they went out to thief bread to feed. No, don't mama guy me. I know these guys. They aren't criminals of necessity. They're criminals of opportunity who are looking to buy another thick gold chain with the crime. Let's not mama guy ourselves. The reality is in Trinidad and Tobago, the criminality isn't because of lack or because of poverty. It's because of corruption in the police system. I will say that. That's criminality in Trinidad. Our police system, our policing system does not stop criminality effectively enough. So the people in our society who are given to doing that kind of thing do it. It's not because they're struggling. Them fellas, they ain't missing no meals.
Can I ask a question? Why people feel
before it's
like
midnight.
Government needs to provide that employment, particularly for people in the medical field. I don't know if it's like across the board, you all think that they need to provide all types of employment, or if it's specifically because I know that was a thing going on. I would like to know why.
Here's the thing. Here's why I will say. I don't know why I'll give Roni after this. Roni been here a while. And she is so much. The reason I think people may be like that, I think many people may think like that, is because that's the culture our country created. The culture our country created is the government educates me in preschool, the government educates me in primary school, the government educates me in secondary school, the government educates me in tertiary school. So if the government was directing my entire education up till I'm 22, if the government told me to become a something, whatever I am at 22, and I am it now, who do they expect to give me the job? Of course, I'm going to expect the person who provided my education to now provide my job. It's the nature of what the system that we created. They provided that. So obviously, there is the next step that people are going to look for in terms of provision. And the reality is, that is how Trinidad functioned for a very long time. When the government educate me and I go get a government work. Let me hear you, Roni.
I have been saying this and everybody hates me for it. Why is UWI churning out hundreds of engineers, hundreds of doctors, hundreds of lawyers every single year when we all know it is all overstaffed? They can't employ all of them. I think that it is high time that we get into cycles where they don't run medicine for a few years, they don't run engineering for a few years, they don't run law for a few years.
No, that'll be bad for the economy. Because they make back their money through education.
No, I'm not saying. No, I'm just talking about it would make more sense. Because obviously, if I go and study medicine, why would I go and study medicine to come and not do medicine? But then obviously, if I am studying medicine and I know, well, I don't know, but when I get out, I finish my degree and whatever, I do have a placement in any job, like private sector, public sector. I can't find a job. Like, you think it makes sense for me to go and study medicine?
Roni,
you think it makes sense for these students that set their heart out on to do med to hold back their life for a couple of years just because it overstaffed and oversaturated?
No, but not only that. If it have 100 people this year and 100 people next year, in the fourth year when you're finally running medicine, you're going and run a class for 400 people?
Here's the thing too.
Is it that you're telling people they don't do medicine, or you're telling them once every few years they could do it? Because then by the time people are ready to do it, there will be a large amount of persons.
Just now, Roni, you're coming next. But I kinda agree with what you're saying, but I think you have to limit that. As I saw Nisi saying in the chat, and Sci-Fifted, me and you have to talk about the spelling of that name, Sci-Fifted. She says it's sifted, but I see Sci-Fifted. But as they were saying, it's very hard for the university to come and try to tell individuals what they should or shouldn't learn. I don't think that should be anyone's place to tell somebody what they should learn. However, who is paying for it? Who pays the piper calls the tune. If the government is paying for a degree, they could say which degrees they are going to pay for. So what I think they can do is limit, or as you say, cycle the degrees that they will offer full payment for. So for this year, the government is not paying any management degrees. We have enough management professionals in Trinidad and Tobago. If you sign up for management, you will pay it for yourself. No one is telling you you can't study management, but if you do, you will pay it for yourself. That kind of thing, I could see a reasoning behind. So.
Can I ask? So for those doctors who work private and public, or who've established a private practice and work public, why isn't the issue instead to implement where if it is you work public, or if it is you work private already, you cannot get a job in public, or if it is you are working public and we find out that you do work private, will no longer get your public because you already making a salary, and let the other doctors who not working.
Ria, you will blow up the whole healthcare system.
And it have people out
Them
there,
doctors will hang you.
And a private work, right? Why you not beaten up on the fact that have people with two work?
Ria, I understand what you're saying in Ria.
When it have people who hold in
Ria,
public office.
if you go to be the health minister,
like your beef is with the wrong people.
Ria, if you go to be the just now, Ronnie, I'm gonna give you it right after. Sorry, I know I said that before. Ria, the doctors go hang you, 1, and 2. Always bear in mind, the ones who get to do that public-private are usually the more experienced doctors. Are you sure you want to run a system where you chase out the most experienced doctors in exchange for the novices? I could tell you personally, if I was going to the hospital and I was informed that all the elder practitioners who have their private practices are kicked out of the hospital, I'd be like, you know what? Let me go to the private practice.
Like that, to be honest.
Or
Because
if you tell them they cannot get paid for it.
Are more personable, and they at least pay attention to you because they're fresh now, so they really intend to listen, and they don't think for sure that they just know everything because
Go ahead, Ronnie. I disagree with that. I want my experience. You take the youngies.
Doctors who watch you and just tell you. And you can turn and say, yeah, it's your expertise that gives you that. But you could at least hear all my symptoms first before telling me that, I just had gas. Like, oh God, give me the benefit of the doubt. And at least.
To be honest with you, when you're dealing with a set of people every single day, you can't not expect the nonchalance of doctors. Like, eventually, over time, even with the younger med students, they really don't care because they're desensitized.
I never say I want a med student, Palos. I say I want a young doctor.
Well, it's the same thing. It will be like a man now come out of med school, he now finish the internship, something like after that point, you kind of wonder, because you have to think about it realistically, right? Most people who just go in to do med do it for the prestige and status. They think they're going to make a lot of money from it, right? And by the time it is they reach into med, you have to realize that it's like, oh shit, I can't change from this. This is our profession. It's not like a career where it is like I just swap it and they have no choice but to commit it. So they will do it, but they will do it begrudgingly. And at that point, it's like, well, they don't care. And after that, after a certain point, I've been in the hospital and been around, people are dying every day. Like, who's fucking you to death, dog? Like, they don't care.
All right, Ronnie.
Okay, so this is I had in mind when I was talking about the cycle when I was in London, right? Or in the UK. When you are studying ACCA, if they only need 100 people to pass, 1,000 people could do the exam. 100 people getting that certificate.
I hate that idea.
I think that makes sense.
I hate that. Listen, if I do in an exam and you tell me I fail because you just want 100 to pass, I will be fuming mad. I want to know if I learned the subject or not. You don't have to give me a job, but don't tell me I failed the exam.
And they managed to be top scorers, and I score 81, and the top scorers scored more than that. You mean to tell me at a 81, you telling me I fail?
Yes.
No, I passed. I probably wouldn't be able to get employment this year, but I shouldn't have to go and sit the exam next year.
Okay, well, I'd like to tell them that. Because,
here's-
listen, systems have to work for masses, right? We do not want people to sit on their butt and talk about, I have my certificate and I can't get a job. So then
Well, to be honest with you, though, like it's easier to get a job without any qualifications and being a nice, personable person with some real nice, let we say, personality. Dog, and you get hired like that.
I
rather
agree.
than having qualifications.
I agree. And I think the world is going more in that direction. I encourage a lot of my students about the same thing.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
On that point that she made, part of it is because, to an extent, people who have degrees and have no job experience, not often, but they sometimes come with this sense of entitlement, as if they're already good because they have the degree, when they have no practical experience in the field. Somebody without the degree, they come very humble, very willing to learn, they don't know what's going to happen, but they gobble up all the information, everything that they're taught, etc., etc. Whilst people with degrees feel, I know what I'm doing.
I agree.
If it is I have a degree, I should not be at entry level.
The thing is, the world is headed in that direction, I think. The world is headed in that direction. If you look at many of the largest companies, go and look at it. If you doubt me, go and look at it. Many of the largest companies are moving away from hiring people based on qualifications and hiring people based on what they know. And here's the thing. In this, the way how the world is right now, you have to understand what qualifications were for. Now we have to end this 12. Sorry, Valstar. We will be here tomorrow again, and today, later again, and you'll come. Sorry, Valstar. My apologies. I know you asked a lot, more than once. If you're here in the next live, whenever you're here, just make sure you point yourself out, and I'll bring you up. My apologies. We have to end. It's closing in after. It's after 12. But yeah. The world is headed more in that direction because you have to understand what qualifications were for in the original sense. Sorry, Valstar. I know, we wicked. I too, it's not all you, it's me. I'm in charge of pulling people up. The nature of it is qualifications were there to prove that you know what you know. If somebody said they're an engineer, how would I know that you're actually an engineer? I don't know that. I don't want to have to give you a test to find out. So I'll get an institution to go through 4 years of making sure you know XYZ, and then the institution tells me through a certificate, this is proof that Nathan Springer knows this much in engineering. But if it is possible now in modern times for me to be able to prove my knowledge without necessarily getting that certification, which the internet and ease of information technology allows a lot for now, some of these things are being obsolete. And the nature of the university system, I think, is an obsolete system where they think like it's this prestigious location on top of a rock somewhere that you must go to. No, the internet could teach you just about everything you learn in university in a shorter period of time. It's just a matter of now being able to prove what you know, and the internet is allowing for that too. All right, people, listen. This was real good.
I beg him.
Go ahead, Rooney. Quickly, before Valstar get vexed.
I tell him you let him come up for 2 minutes or whatever. And then tomorrow we'll talk about it, but probably even Wednesday, because I just work my work. We had this work and see my work.
Nathan, bro, I have one interesting question, right?
Ask away.
Your brother teaches lessons, right?
Yes.
So if you agree that university is obsolete, does he also share that same sentiment that, you don't really need qualifications to go about your life,
I didn't say don't need qualifications to go about your life, and I didn't say university is obsolete. I said I think it's headed in that direction, and I do think he shares some of that belief. And just by the way, I teach too. I'm a teacher. I'm not saying I don't think education is important. Education is crucial. I'm talking about the style and direction we are headed in with the obsolete nature of the education system. The public
I totally
education.
agree with you in terms of that, right? I totally agree in terms of that. But you could attest that for most things, other than, let's say being a doctor, right? Because you actually need to go to school for that. I don't want nobody pulling out my kidney without actually going and learning that, right? But most things in life, they really centered around business, right? And to work in our business, do you agree that every single business is unique in nature? You don't necessarily need to go to school to learn the ins and outs of that. You can just learn it along the way and just adapt to suit. Because regardless if you get a degree or not, you're going to work in our business, right? And every single business is different and unique. And the degree it is you learn is a standardized general knowledge. But when it is you reach in your work, you really learn how to work for that particular company. If you're changing and you're going somewhere else, you have to learn by their rules and how it is they do things there as well. You have a general idea, but everyone is different.
Correct. I have to hire people for certain jobs and things. If I'm looking for someone to hire, primarily what I'm looking for is how quickly they learn, how receptive they are to learning, and their attitude and discipline level. That's the main thing. Qualifications be damned. Valstar, I let you up for 2 minutes, but I just see your thing loading. What's going on, Valstar? It's just loading. Valstar, what's going on?
You're not hearing me?
Oh, yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Not hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer Ria's question about the government owes them a job, right? Now, the majority of students coming out of university are part of the GATE program. They are at least partially or wholly funded by GATE. And being part of the GATE program must work for the government of Trinidad and Tobago, either in the private sector or public sector. It is an agreement you are entering, pay for my education, and in turn, I work for you. Imagine someone finish their education, can't find a job in Trinidad, so they go elsewhere in another country and establish themselves. They still, if the government says you have to work for me, they have to come back Trinidad and work. That is why there's a problem with, and I think it's a cultural issues where Trinidadian parents,
Wait, Valstar, pause. Valstar, pause. I don't know what's going on, but not everyone is hearing you, it seems. I am hearing... Wait, y'all aren't hearing me?
Yeah, I'm here now, but I don't think the chat is here.
I don't think the chat is hearing you, and I don't know why.
Alright, sorry about that. I'll come down then.
It's okay, Valstar. No need to apologize. My apologies, Valstar. Hopefully, tomorrow you could come back up and make that point. The point she was making is that due to the GATE program, some people are not hearing me. Well, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe my battery is too low. Due to the GATE program, people are supposed to work for the government after that. Well, it's not actually work for the government. I think it's stay in Trinidad and work. So if you get your education through the GATE program, it could kind of be understood that if you want me to work for you, then you should provide a job for me. I could understand that point. All right, folks, thank you all for being here. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. We will do this again, well, tonight, not tomorrow night. Again, around 9:50, 9:30 is our start time. I don't want to hear you, Nisi. Thank you for your input nonetheless. I will see you all again then for the next Mindful Live. This was nice. Hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. Peace out. By the way, this was brought to you by Mindful Education. That's the institution run by me, Nathan Springer. We do learning pods starting from the ages of preschool learning pods to early primary to late primary to early secondary to late secondary. All of them are available. Also, if you are interested in private tutoring, we do offer classes for most of the CXC and CAPE subjects. If you are interested in those, be sure to hit us up on Instagram or message me wherever you see me. Till later. Peace out, folks. It was nice.